Hi, Davi here, and today we have a new episode in the art review series, and today we'll be checking out the work of Yoji Shinkawa. Lots of art reviews of this guy already out there. I actually found or was introduced to this guy by Trent. He's a big art channel, Trent Kanuga something. And also recently in my comment section, because I've been doing quite a few like black and white sort of illustrations or sketches, they sort of reminded them, I guess, of or they were reminded of Yoji Shinkawa. Now, obviously, this guy's pretty well known. He's responsible for the Metal Gear Solid, where he helped mainly, or he's one of the main sort of visual leaders, designers for that series. Same thing for Death Stranding, and I think he works along with Kojima, another famous guy in the game sort of industry in Japan. And so yeah, we'll be focusing more on I did download a couple of his work or his pieces. I'm not sure if, obviously this is not all of his work, but he does have this iconic style of where it's black and it's very graphic looking, which is kind of my thing as well, which is cool. It's nice to see that there are people who are like this, and it's just nice seeing his work. Or maybe the reason why I was a bit more open to like playing with black and white kind of drawings or illustrations is because maybe subconsciously I was kind of influenced by his work somewhere, along the years. Because I've seen these illustrations before. It's a very common or a well-known, like you've seen it if you're in the concept art community, like what this is, or you've at least seen some of these kinds of drawings. And so the common style here, he does have quite a few like styles. Some are just more, well, it's hard to say on the other ones, although someone mentioned that he does have like around a rough estimate of like 4, I think, in one of the articles. But the main sort of style that he's known for is where you have the black ink sort of floating above, right? And then under is usually some kind of digitally colored, and it's rendered in a way it's almost similar to watercolor, and there's not a lot of like brush texture work. It's usually just a plain round brush, and it does have that very watercolor kind of effect. And I think they do say that, or according to him or some writers that study his work, that is kind of influenced by traditional like Eastern types of paintings like sumi-e. Those like black ink sort of like minimalistic paintings in like Japan or China. I think that has influenced his work. And obviously stuff like like manga and comics, because obviously they do use a lot of like black and white ink work. And although for his style, for the way he does things, it is a bit more loose. Sometimes it's hard to see where things end and where things begin. It's almost like very gestural in a way. And I think it's sort of a reflection of that sumi-e style of painting, or that kind of ink wash, watercolor type of approach, where you're just capturing the essence of the thing or the spirit of the thing, rather than trying to copy like the contours. There is a bit of realism, obviously, for the face and the proportions, but the way it's sort of manifested, it's a bit more gestural. It reminds me of some of the work of, who's that guy? Greg Ticini. He's a bit more defined with his lines, but especially with the comic kind of a series called Low, L-O-W. If you look at the way the drawings are done page by page, it's very loose. Like, it's not typically like comic style. Like, you wouldn't expect it to look that way, but it has a very gestural, almost like a spirit kind of line work. It can look sketchy, but I think it's not. I don't think it's a good word for that. I think it's just the way it's supposed to be. I don't even know what I said, but you know what I mean. For example, this one, like, it can look good if it's a bit more like tight, right? More graphic. Think typical like comic book art of like Batman or Superman, where it's super tight. Yeah, but there's a certain abstraction that just looks good. right? Because in a way, you can fill in the gaps for yourself. And these types of like conceptual drawings or illustrations, they kind of help fuel your imagination a bit. And maybe they can just help set the tone. And obviously, even for, because in like typical like game art, like concept art for games and films, usually it's very 3D and very like, is generic the word? Like there's a certain standard to uphold, right? But I think sometimes it helps if you have a certain unique look. And I think Yoji here has a very unique look. Like it's not typical, I would say, for this industry. And yet it is very influential, you know? I mean, even though the drawings are not necessarily, again, as tight, for as long as the mood is there or the essence of the thing is there, you can always like develop it further in your own way. And I think he's found like a solid, or like his voice essentially. Like he found a way to be able to express himself. Now, thankfully, I did find a few videos of him doing his thing. Let me just bring it up here on. Now, this one's on the PlayStation's channel, posted 5 years ago. So let me just play it. And now you can actually see him use like drawing traditionally. And I think he does this usually where he'll do something, ink something in like paper, right? And then he'll bring it into some kind of maybe Photoshop, and then he'll do the coloring there. So he likes to kind of work things phase by phase in that way. And I do like that he can solve the major problems in this stage in just black and white. So you can see him quickly be able to illustrate the face. And I think this is done in real time, so around 10 minutes. So this whole thing here is a 10-minute sketch. And in one of the articles, I'm going to link them by the way in the description below. They did mention that he does like using more like felt tip, or in this case brush pens, more than say the typical ballpoint pen, and that does contribute to his more like rougher outlines, rougher ink work. It's a bit more bold, a bit more energetic, and I wouldn't say it's delicate. It's more like raw and powerful, because you know it's a brush, right, or it's a thick pen, so it's not going to be it's not going to look like delicate in any way. It's going to look more bold. I guess that's the best word I know now. And again, if you look at his contour, it's not tight in any way. It's very emphasizing the shadows, especially for the face, and that's how he sort of draws. For example, he's not even drawing the whole contour of the face, right? He's using the like you're filling it up yourself. For example, if you look at the right hand side of the face, there's no outline there, at least for now, but you can still tell it's a face. So, and if you look at the shadows, say of the nose and the mouth, they're connected, so it's one shadow, and it looks good that way. Because if you like overdo it where you have so many shadows or so many black spots everywhere, it can muddy your drawing a bit or illustration. But if you have like solid like blocks, like big blocks of these shapes, these dark or black shapes, I think it's going to make your drawing or illustration a bit more solid, and it like visually more appealing. For example, in the right hand side again of the face, all you can see that's kind of there is some outline of the cheek and the ear, but the upper like side of the forehead, right hand side of the cheek, it's sort of left as is, you know. So you're just filling in the gaps by yourself, or you're letting the audience or the viewer do it themselves. And I think he's gotten pretty good with the face, obviously, because it's the most like, oh wow, splatter. He likes doing that. There's like an energy to the way he does things, which I like. And he also mentioned how, again, linking, I remember seeing or reading it in one of the blogs or articles where he does like the look of the brush, because you do get sort of these random like uncontrolled parts. So it's in a way you're like being surprised. You can be intentional, but at the same time, when you make a mark, you do get surprised with how those marks can turn out because of the unpredictable tool you're using. People say this about like brush pens, watercolor, you know, these types of very loose tools. And so I think there's a welcoming, I guess, of like mistakes, or will you call them mistakes, or unplanned shit. uncertain accidents. I think Bob Ross, painter. I think his name is Bob Ross. Like he likes to talk about happy accidents where you just kind of let it happen, and if it's there, if it happens, then you just kind of have to enjoy it. In this case, he's doing more of this like montage thing or collage sort of effect where you're jumping in a bunch of characters in one frame, sort of as a spot illustration of sorts. In this case, you can see him draw the cheek, or this chick rather. And again, he's not drawing the entire. I need to learn that when I'm using the lasso fill tool or any kind of ink pen. Like I don't have to draw every freaking contour, and I can just suggest it, and you can fill in the gaps yourself. Although you do need to know where to make those marks. For example, he knows where to put them. In this case, the upper part of the lip, that's where the shadow usually is. The eyelashes. Oh shit, his shoulders covering everything. And look at the way he's sketching. It's so like, and by the way, all of this 10 minutes. Jesus. This probably would have taken me, I don't know, maybe an hour. Whoa, ambitious. And besides, he's not even using reference because he's done this like so many times, right? We also have another video. Let me just pause. Let me just see the end. So he did add some extra effects here and there. So that's pretty cool. But this one is more of a live art show. And you'll see him start is this the best resolution we have? Oh my god. He starts out with gray. And then he'll add in the black. So it's essentially 3 values because there's still white, obviously the canvas, right? So he'll start off with the gray as a base. And then he'll add the shadows, that's the black. And I think all in all, even right now, even if it's angled, this view, you can still tell that it's the face, right? And it's very minimalistic. If you just look at any sort of even the work of like Kim Jung-gi, sometimes he'll do this where he'll paint in watercolor and in grayscale. Well, he'll start with the gray mid value first, and then he'll add the darker inks later on. It has a very traditional looking vibe to it, and it's very watercolor like and very fluid, gestural like. And there's sort of a freeing element to it where it's not super it's more I was gonna say it's more artistic, but it feels wrong to say it because there are many kinds of styles, right? I'm not sure what the word is. It's just more expressive maybe because it feels more freeing. It's not as tight. It's more abstract. It's more impressionistic, right? Oh shit, look at that. And I do like the graphic elements he often adds in the background to kind of help the character pop out even more. So you don't have to do things the right way where it's just either a white background or like a super well done defined environment. You can just make it kind of like this. I think it's good with spot illustrations where it's not the full thing. It's sort of a focused area. Let's see the face. I'm not saying he can't do anything else. What I'm saying is he seems to have an affinity for these sorts of like quick, short, very sort of spot focused visual stuff. Right? Let me just go back to the PureRef file because I think we need to see more of it. I'm sure there's more. Some of these are from like art books of his or of the game. If you just zoom out, you can tell again his common style is the black ink, and it's very like obvious. It's very brushy. Even like zoom in on this mech. Look at the way the detail lines are done. It's very loose, very rough, and it's not always like a completely like a. Let me just have a sip of coffee here. I don't think you're meant to, number one, view this up close. But also I don't think you're supposed to view it as some kind of dedicated, detailed thing. It's a concept. There are many kinds of concept art, right? And this is one of them. It's more of the base kind of art where it's more free. And as you go and reiterate, develop this thing, it does get a bit more tight, sure. But I think a bulk of concept art sort of starts out this way, where it's more conceptual, more free, and it sets the mood. You need these sort of things to help tie your project portfolio together, because if you don't have these, it feels like maybe if you're trying to fit a specific role, do a specific kind of work. But I think for every artist, just my opinion, I think you need to have something that's just yours, like a signature of sorts, right? The same way I'm using my own voice and the same way I talk, the way I talk. I think when it comes to our medium, our artwork, our craft, we need to find this voice. We need to develop this voice. Now, this will differ from person to person, but I think this is needed, for the artistic sort of soul. Because if you don't have it, like, I feel like, for me anyway, I feel sort of tense and empty, like I don't have my own thing. Like a part of me is missing, and I need to find and fill up that gap in my soul, Oh, I also saw that he did use some of his schoolwork drawings, maybe, I'm not sure if from high school or college, and then they reused it for this, like, I'm not sure if this is it, a Voyage or something. It's like a mecha game. I think it also had an anime. Oh, this is my favorite, obviously. It's just so, maybe he did use the lasso fill here. It's a bit tight. It's a bit sharp. So maybe some like selection tools were used. Lots of like splatter brushes, graphic brushes, very manga, comic-ish. I do like this part here, the black, and it's some parts of it are being like erased. So it's not supposed to be clean. It's supposed to be like it's alive, Like you see so many shapes, but it's alive. Like it's not even rendered where you blend things. It's just they're mostly, all of it is essentially just flat shapes, colors, values. But because they're so undefined, or it feels like it's moving in a sense. Maybe the shape design is there. Obviously, these sorts of loopy things add to that, but also because you see these sort of erased edges, it feels like it's on the move, or it can give you that feeling. And if you look at the lips, the eyes, is it fully accurate? I don't think so, but it's enough. It looks good. I like it. I'll make this the cover. And we have these ones. It's more like initial, and maybe it starts out this way, and then eventually, he'll add the color later on in like Photoshop or Paint Tool side. Right? Very loose. Looser than I expected, but very iconic. And it's so him. And it would really be nice to be one day like kind of recognized this way. Like it's almost a deny, but like you don't even have to add your own a signature, because people know who you are based on your style alone. Oh shit. Look at that. It looks, like a tradition. Just look at any sort of traditional, like Japanese or Chinese sort of paintings, like watercolor or black ink paintings. It's very similar. You know how oftentimes I like to add the bamboo and maybe some like birds or blossoms. I know, like that. This one, I think he's trying to play with the paneling here. I'm not sure if he's responsible for that or someone else did it. So these are more character sheets. Ooh. Really strong shadows. He's not afraid to use black. Oh, I do like this part. Right, very suggestive. But the character or the essence is there. Look at how the end of this pants sort of blends with the skin already. But you still know where the pants are. Like you will fill in the gaps yourself. What's so cool is with this approach, you don't have to do all the work. Is this a guy or a chick? Regardless, they're still hot. Oh yeah. Ink sketches. Let me just zoom out and just see things. Oh, let me just look at this a little more. Ooh. Yeah, when he does bring it to Photoshop or any kind of a digital program, look at the brushes being used. It's so like basic. Maybe it's because the brush work, like the ink work, is already pretty like abstract and textured. Because if you look at the edges, sometimes when you use a brush, you do get those like straying or off marks. Right? It's not one clean solid line. So maybe to counterbalance that, you use a more simple brush in the coloring phase. Let me just zoom out. Oh yeah. Let's zoom in. Look at that. So, there are some textures being used here. Right, so you add the flats first and then maybe use a clipping mask to add some like splatter brushes effects. And look at how the hair is done. It's not even complete. Like she's sort of like appearing. Like this idea is appearing, like she teleported like right in front of you. And now she's gonna, shoot you. Oh, pretty cool. And maybe the lesson here is just don't fight yourself. Don't try to be like, if you're this kind of person, then just go for it. If you're not super detailed, it's over at this point. Just fucking go the Yoji route, Yoji Shinkawa, and develop things that way. Right? If this is how you can produce your ideas, then that's how you're gonna produce them. That's way better than just waiting for the perfect style that you think is going to be appealing to the mass public. If it looks interesting, for example, right now, if you think this style or this kind of approach seems kind of in your lane, like you feel like it's sort of you and you see yourself in it, then try being a bit more loose. Don't fight it. Don't be ashamed. I mean, look at this guy. I mean, I know people who don't like this in terms of like detail. Like they'll judge like, oh, the lines are not complete. It's so abstract. Yeah, whatever. Yoji Shinkawa exists, so right now I know I'm doing the whole like, I think there's some kind of bias where you're focusing on the exception to the rule, but we're artists anyway, we're dreamers, so fuck it. So anyway, that's it for Yoji Shinkawa. Check out his work. I will link some of the articles I found or blogs, and you can always search on YouTube for more like really deep analysis videos of his like art or art style. Even one specific to like certain games like Death Stranding, Metal Gear Solid. So yeah, that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Oh yeah, and just a side note, I really want to continue the whole black and white thing and see where it goes, because I do like using the lasso fill tool for my own sketches. But obviously I'm going to diversify and not just limit myself to just one tool. Like for example, like in this space, it's not one thing. There are multiple elements, multiple techniques being used. So that's sort of where I'm headed, I guess. And I think Yoji Shinkawa was a good kind of reminder for me to kind of be confident in this process. And it just shows you that it is possible to produce, inspiring work, eye-catching work that actually makes you want to imagine more of that world, right? With this kind of artistic approach. So that's it for this art review, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.